As a beginner, maybe the future orientation of the question as 2020 led us mostly to jump over our present stresses and issues that occupied us throughout the conference. Since that Monday morning session, we've spent a lot of time as an opportunity to talk about the important work we do now, helping create new work now, developing capacity now, providing technical assistance now, and more. Work that we cannot lose sight of reminds us we have to be critically attuned to short-term viability, even as we're looking to implant longer-term health. In looking to the future, though, however, we all saw a 2020 in every room that would be shaped by at least four forces: demographic change and the drive to greater social, cultural, and racial equity, the rise of technology, its impact on the art form, and its inadvertent creation of a new generation gap, a generation gap marked by the digital natives and the digital immigrants, globalization and our role as an increasingly internationally oriented culture, and the rise in arts participation and creative expression, a rise that's blurring the lines between professional and non-professional, and that is shifting our markets away from sheer consumption to more commonly participation. Every group articulated and recognized the need for all of us to be able to articulate, substantiate, and engage others around the value of art for and in our communities in order to get to 2020, a need that is leading us to respond to and support many activities. We now, in most cases, support data gathering, tracking and evaluation, leadership development and mentoring, increasingly advocacy, arts education, innovation and experimentation, networks and collaboration, and more convenings. Convenings of grantees with grantees, convenings of us with grantees, convenings of us with one another. And in this work, there was an astonishing array of allies and collaborators, none of whom in any room were seen as more important than artists. Artists not only for the work they produce and not only for the impact they're having in their communities, but as a source of new ideas, new viewpoints, and new inspiration. Other valued allies that recurred in rooms included the media, youth groups, social service organizations, non-arts government agencies in transportation, education, and economic development, one another, and coalitions especially comprised of individuals from industries and sectors that traditionally we have not connected to and reached, new sectors that are giving us new perspectives, new ideas, and truly seeding innovation, creativity, and new experimental change. You know, these quick glimpses of everything we had in common bypassed so many topics that occurred in one room but not another, and they were fantastic. In one room, we heard deep curiosity about international models and what we can learn from other countries. In another room, there was deep curiosity about why is it we talk so almost exclusively about young audiences in a time when our population is aging. Some people wanted to talk about how we connected to issues like climate change more substantially as we moved forward. And there were debates and questions, deep questions about what innovation means and its significance. Questions about whether we should be engaged in educational reform and whether working with school systems is even viable, or whether we should just cut the schools loose and go directly to youth engagement more directly. Questions about whether we have conflated the terms creativity and art, and whether in this increasingly arts participation age there is value in that distinction or not. These were rich, powerful, resonant conversations in different rooms. And I might say, arguably, the most innovative and probing issues for us may well spring from these more peripheral or isolated conversations than from the center from which we're already engaged. That said, at almost every point, the conversation moved into the consideration of the philanthropic sector. Isolation we feel from one another, the ongoing need for renewal through new ideas, encounters with artists, and time for reflective thinking. And on some level, in this very exercise at its best moments, it provided just that opportunity. It gave us the opportunity to share new strategies. The move into PRIs and loans, for example, or the lifting of grant caps, the flexibility demonstrated in repurposing grants. It gave us the opportunity to reflect on the nature of the philanthropic exchange, assessing the degree to which we are prescriptive versus responsive, burdensome rather than catalytic, innovative ourselves rather than stuck in old patterns of behavior and old priorities. Again, the particulars of that are forthcoming and will be shared in the months to come. But in closing, let me share just a couple thoughts with you. The first, an observation from the Task Force on the Arts at Harvard University, which is, to me, one of the most compelling documents I've run across in recent years in its way it articulates not just the value, but the necessity of the arts. At one point, the author, who curiously isn't credited, it's a group document, says, "The enemies of excellence in making art are very much like the enemies of excellence in chemistry or English, neuroscience or history. Inattention, conceit, the impulse to cut corners, a lack of vital engagement, conceptual timidity, and a premature settling for routine and conventional answers." Are these our enemies as well? Can we pledge to resist those enemies? Can we pledge, on the reverse, to be attentive, humble, diligent, rigorous, engaged, audacious, and open? The very principles that perhaps distinguish the artist from just the creator. Can we pledge to model the very principles of openness, transparency, nimbleness, and responsiveness that we seek to instill in our grantees? Can we manifest the creativity we demand from others? Creativity, not just imagination, but creativity is described by Bill Moyers, showing up and showing up senses tingling, listening deeply, speaking truth, and letting go of predetermined results. If this time is less about recovery than about reinvention, an imperative we foist repeatedly on our grantees, surely this is the moment in which we too must recommit to our work, but to also be bold and to reinvent what we are and who we are and what we do. In every room, the hunger to shatter the box was palpable, even while it's clear we're at a very early stage in figuring out what that will mean and how we will achieve it. What that will mean, how it will be solved, with whom it will be probed, how this work will be shared, all of that is work for us to undertake individually and for GIA as a whole. Speaking for the Board of Directors of GIA, I thank you for your openness and willingness to participate in this exercise. GIA is open and eager for any and all input you care to share with us, and we look forward to continuing this journey of fashioning a healthy arts sector together for us all. In this work, we are blessed to be led by the woman to whom I turn us for our closing moments, GIA Executive Director Janet Brown.